All right, now we get into another mirror matchup, but it is TvT. Bottom right, it is Team Liquid's Clem. Top left, it is Mal's HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE used to be the best player in the Open Cup by far. Then there's a little contention. There's a couple of Max Packs victories. There's a couple of Clem victories. Occasionally Showtime. Some other, certainly. But for the most part, HeRoMaRinE won. I think 90% of Open Cups, I swear. But that has not been the case for the last year. Clem went from occasionally combating HeRoMaRinE to consistently winning against him and anyone else he was up against. So he would then win against Max Packs, slip for a couple of weeks, win, slip for a week, win, 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 win. And so that's what he does now. He wins. He's a winner. And Clem has been winning against HeRoMaRinE for the last 6 series. Then he lost one. And then he was on a 7 series. Then he lost one. So, the last year, he has won far more than he has lost against HeRoMaRinE. So, HeRoMaRinE is in a lot of trouble. In fact, Clem coming in 2023 with a 82% win record in matches against HeRoMaRinE. So this is really turned. This has really changed. And now Clem is the one who also gets a boost from being in the Clem Open Cup. There used to be some type of magic to HeRoMaRinE, because even when he was looking down and out in 2022, he would still somehow miraculously come back, and it's because it was the Open Cup, and we just went, oh, Open Cup magic. And now that's Clem's. And all right, some of the magic being shown right now for Clem is that HeRoMaRinE decided seeing that there was a second supply depot was good enough information. It's really not. That could be a prox, or it could be a factory expand, or it could be a 2-racks. And in this case, it is a 2-racks. It isn't proxied, but still. And those are two very different ways of following up a wall. So HeRoMaRinE is going to be maybe not in trouble. I think he's certainly well aware that it could be two things. But it could be very difficult because Clem's micro is just so good, and you certainly don't know where the Reapers are going to be coming in from. Are they going to jump up the hop spot, or are they going to come in the front? It is going to be the front, and right now, 2v2, no big deal. Clem is not going to win this particular battle. At least he shouldn't. Somehow he did, though. Wait, what? He killed the SCV first. Stop it. That's not how this works. All right. See, if my dumbass, terrible StarCraft 2 play thought that if you were attacking an SCV, and then the other guy's 2 Reapers attacked you while you were attacking an SCV, that they would get the leg up. But no. How stupid am I? Anyway, 4 Reapers versus 3 and a Hellion. The Hellion seems like a really good thing here, but the Reaper grenade and micro ability is really the best thing. But a second Hellion pops out, and that's much better. That does force Clem away, but he has delayed the command center of his opponent multiple times. Quite significantly as well. And so his own command center is about to match his opponent. Looks like HeRoMaRinE will still get a couple of seconds advantage, but not by much. Double cyclones are on the way for Clem. I forgot. I was bracing myself for potentially a terrible meta in PvP. It temporarily erased the memories of a terrible TvT. It's just Cyclone versus Cyclone. Cyclone v Cyclone! Cyclones! Cyclones are the best unit ever to be made. Ever. Look how interesting their design is. Aren't they so cool? They should be the focus. Seriously. Clem is going for Cyclones. HeRoMaRinE went for Cyclone like it was old school Cyclone. Like it was, well, I'll get one for safety and then I'll move on. I don't know, bro. I don't know if that's the way this game's played anymore. I did have an interesting conversation with Kelazur, who almost took down Mario at Atlanta, but kind of flubbed the execution on an otherwise very good game. Where he was pretty adamant. He was like, no, the way the Koreans are playing with these Cyclones is not the best way. When you get to a tank and you get a safe tank count, then you're the better person. You're better off. And I was like, okay, like I see the argument, because that does exist. If someone goes mass cyclone and you get to 3 tanks, then you appropriately and you appropriately use your tank, which by the way only just popped out for HeRoMaRinE, then yeah, you know, that's a battle that should go the tank's favor, but the micro of the Cyclone is like unlimited. You get a medevac with that, plus the production of the Cyclone is just so insane that it's almost guaranteed that something like that happens, what we just saw. And if you're only listening, what we just saw was Clem ransacking HeRoMaRiNE's natural. He killed 8 SCVs, a bunch of army supply, goes into the main with the leftover units, has more Cyclones rallied to the front, and one tank is not going to stop 4 Cyclones. It may not even stop 2, because one can jump on top, and the one can take the damage. And Clem has Interference Matrix Raven, so that's also, you know, pretty freaking nice. And Clem just is going to win. He wins. So while I don't think, you know, Diego is wrong, certainly not, I do think that it might be one of those developing metas where we see, you know, a lot of pros have differing opinions. That makes sense. And regionally, they're different opinions. But what might happen is that it actually does become mass this or that, you know? Like, can't think of any current examples, but I guess kind of like when Hero was going for Mass Gateway versus Zerg, and you know, initially people might have been like, well, you know, I see how it works now, but I don't think it overall is a very good idea, and then it became the staple for a long time. Kind of like that. There was a time where like PvP was all adepts way back in the day, and so I'm sure that started off with people going like, that's stupid, but then all adepts became a meta for a while. Thank you, by the way, Anana, for the 25 months, and Make It B for the 2 months. So, yeah, I am always interested in hearing what the pros have to say, but I think Diego Calazur might be wrong. He might be behind the curve for this. Now, Clem, to be clear, I don't know if Clem is really on board this whole mass cyclone shenanigan thing we saw in the Korean TvTs in Atlanta, because I kind of hope that he isn't, just because I don't want it to be a thing. But one thing that Calazur did tell me, he was like, if it's a TvT final somehow, Kier versus Clem, you're probably still going to see nothing but cyclones, because Clem loves playing with cyclones. And I was like, God damn it. But it makes sense, because Clem is so freaking good with them. The micro is out of this world. So of course Clem would be happy to be using a unit that he already abuses. He's like too good with them. So, you know, whether or not it's the correct meta, I guess, is not even the question. It's whether or not Clem is just the best player in the world right now. In the top right, it is Clem. Bottom left, it is HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE tried to go for a very standard TvT. First, he had to worry about the Reaper micro, which, very standard opener, really, overall. Clem wins all the time versus the best TvTers in the world. He wins all the time with the first 4 Reapers. Then you have to worry about the Cyclone War, in which HeRoMaRinE was trying to do his normal thing, which, you know, 1 Cyclone for the kind of overall defense into tank. But actually, that 1 Cyclone really doesn't help basically at all against someone who's going mass Cyclone. It helps against a medevac drop Cyclone, because obviously you can target the medevac and help against the 2 Cyclones of the medevac. It can help against Banshees, clearly. It can help against the Liberator, clearly. It can help against some of the main pushes on the front, clearly. But if it's just 1 Cyclone helping you against 6 Cyclones, you best have a lot of other units. But all the other units that you might have don't have the range of a Cyclone. And that's what we saw. That's what I just kind of glossed over and watched and guffawed, because Clem was winning after that point. HeRoMaRiNE's 1 Cyclone got bopped, his Reapers and Hellions got bopped, and then he had a tank pop with no units accompanying it. Yay! So I think you, first of all, might have to go Cyclones, which sucks, but it is what it is. And then second of all, I do say so myself, and I'm not nearly as good as HeRoMaRiNE, but here's my theory. I do think you have to skip the safety Cyclone. You either go Cyclones or you don't go Cyclones. You know what I'm saying? You don't go 1. You don't dip your toe in. Because that 1 Cyclone did delay his tank that might have been able to siege up while he still had his economy and his natural alive. And then that would have warded away some of the Cyclone pressure. Who's to say? Who's to say? All right, so not a double 2-Rex. It is going to be rather double Reaper off a reactor first. Clem figuring he will not be 2 racks to death. Proxy 2 racks to death. And he's right. HeRoMaRinE didn't do it. So reactor first, something you can get away with. Gives you 2 Reapers. Also gives you the reactor for the factory. And you know what that's for. Cyclones. Cyclones. Now, if HeRoMaRinE can survive and get the 3 tanks and a decent amount of extra units, 10 Marines, 2 Ravens, whatever it is, then he can try to push across the map. And if he gets across the map and sieged up and the Cyclones of Clem are all in their own sim city, that is when tanks are good. It's just, that's a major problem. That is a major problem. This is what Gumiho tried versus Clem. And the first game it kind of works, but only because Clem didn't track the army. And the second time they played, it didn't work at all because Clem tracked the army. So that's why I'm like, the Cyclones really do feel like the most powerful thing. It's not... It's a lot like the 8 racks versus the 3 starport in that there's this kind of theory that one is better. The 3 starport has the better end game if it gets into the right position. But the 8 racks has so much flexibility and mobility and momentum that you can really play both ways. And no one really blames you for it. But the Cyclone versus kind of usual tank game, I don't know. We might be approaching an era in which the tank game is incorrect, not just hard to do. We'll see. HeRoMaRinE actually not going directly into a second tank, interestingly enough. He did go tank first, which I think is definitely the right call. He also went for a bunker, and that helped a lot. But then he actually swapped his tank production off temporarily to, I guess, expedite his Raven. Okay. I think he wants a second tank right now, though. And that swap in time to build another tech lab is kind of directly leading to some of these kills. The second tank would have been out maybe to save 2 of these SCVs. It, you know, still would have been... It's much more microable, of course, for Clem. That's the problem I keep coming back to. And then Clem's also going to add in Banshees. He is doing the Cure thing. Almost exactly. Cure added more Hellions, but yeah, he's doing the Cure thing. The Banshees really add an extra element of annoyance. First of all, they can be a surprise. Tear through the SCV line before the defender responds. Second of all, if they feel forced to not get a Cyclone to get a tank instead, then they don't have that reliable anti-air against Banshees. So another reason the Banshees are good. And then third, the Banshees can actually just try and snipe some of these tanks. And even, you know, in some of these early game scenarios, 1 Banshee for 1 tank could be game ending. The Banshee player could care less. Couldn't care less about the Banshee being lost. But the tank being lost, suddenly HeRoMaRiNE's very fragile defense crumbles. There's a couple reasons why the Banshee can be very, very annoying. Now, Clem is not doing exactly what Cure does. He's not going into mech. He is going into bio. At the end of the day, I think Clem is just doing what he believes is best for him. He's going Cyclones, which he clearly has a lot of fun microing. And then he's going into bio, which he clearly has more fun with. He's not really a mech player. Now, HeRoMaRinE also getting to Stim, bio, barracks on the way. He has lived. And that is good news. But even without these Banshees adding in 7 SCVs with the damage and escaping, I was still going to say it's not that he has gained a significant lead. Even though Clem didn't find a lot of vulnerabilities in HeRoMaRiNE's defense until now, Clem still had a really good position because he was only 2 workers behind. Was going to take the 3rd CC faster with a more map presence type of style. As Cyclones go on the map, the tank would be very careful if they were to do the same. And he was going to have faster stim, slightly faster upgrades. So, yeah, I say even before these Banshees appear. But the Banshees did appear, and they killed 12 SCVs. Not them, I guess, totally. They killed like 8. And that means that Clem has a lead in the work account and in the base actually being on the ground. Stim is done. His combat shields are on the way. His Cyclones are parked ready for a potential move out from HeRoMaRinE, which HeRoMaRinE is not eager to do. The last shot of the Banshee gets that 3rd SCV kill. HeRoMaRinE knows how dangerous this is. He could be dropped in the main. He could be counterattacked in the natural. He could just lose a tank as he siege hops forward, which is exactly what happened. Then the main base now under fire. Tank not going to be in trouble, though. Marauder pops out, and a couple of missile turrets. A couple. One on the mineral line, one on the edge. So Clem's drop micro shenanigans are at least over and done with, but 4 or 5 cyclones, excuse me, Jesus, barely being microed, can still threaten the lock-ons to Ravens and tanks. So HeRoMaRinE is still the one that's ultimately playing a much slower game, one that is totally reacting to what Clem is doing, where Clem is in the driver's seat, 3rd CC done, orbital done, workers saturating, upgrades finishing, combat shields, most importantly finishing. He also is going to be better timed on his upgrades. His armory is finishing, and HeRoMaRinE has thus far forgotten his... Yeah, I think he just forgot it because he has the minerals and gas for it. Now he is also going to be under pressure, so he's going to have to start tracking this army. Right now, his tank count is good enough to hold, but Clem will continue to gain leads in the army supply as he continues to take the upgrades and he continues to take the map. HeRoMaRinE just has to play such a slow, cautious game that, while HeRoMaRinE still has a chance to win, of course, it really is like a Maru-type situation. You are behind, and your best chance to win is to take it to the late game. Can you survive that long? The answer apparently is no. HeRoMaRinE, too shy on the tank count in the very front of his 3rd base, gets broken. Good anti-armor missile to help out, however. It's actually very, very effective. Nonetheless, SCVs are killed, pulled away, tank dies. Cyclones in the natural, going to find a tank actually as well, and now down to just 4 tanks. It's barely enough to cover his bases. It's got to be in the right position, and the sensor tower definitely helps here. So HeRoMaRinE will hold on. Clem's 4th base has begun. His 2-2 has begun as well. Not that far ahead of HeRoMaRinE's actually, but still farther ahead. 2nd factor on the way for Clem as well, as he just gets a little bit ahead on the production. And Clem will be the first one to also decide 8 racks or 3 starport. I think both options are good in this situation. And he's going to go 8 racks first. No! What did it ever do to you? It's just chilling. First attack, no. Anyway. That 4th CC is in a vulnerable area. Clem's CC is in the exact same place. He just isn't being sieged up on. So now I think Clem has picked up on the kind of lacking army, so he realizes there must be some type of counterattack. He sieges his tank. Perfectly timed, because he realized that. He's like, well, that's not a lot of army. Where could it be? Up over there. All right, then. 4th CC of HeRoMaRinE is canceled, and while Clem isn't able to get a right hook in to just get the win and kill the guy, he is getting jabs. He is still getting ahead. And eventually he will find HeRoMaRinE trying to reach towards a 4th. And that'll be the next biggest vulnerability for HeRoMaRinE. I do say eventually. His 4th took some time to be replaced. Scan of the 3rd, I think, was checking for the 4th timing. Wait, no. No, he saw the 4th. Yeah, he saw the 4th. I'm actually not sure. I guess he just thought the army would be there. It wasn't. So that scan now goes on to where the army actually is, which is on HeRoMaRiNE's side of the map. It looks like Clem does want to go forward. He's got the 2-2 upgrades. He's got a little bit of a split. All of the tanks of HeRoMaRiNE were sieged up in the appropriate location, but the numbers were missing, I guess. I guess he could have had all 3 tanks hitting this army, but he had like 6 tanks. 4 in the natural, 2 kind of getting combined up on that top side, and it still wasn't enough to stop Clem from entering into the natural. The supplies, for a second, were even, but HeRoMaRiNE's SCVs go down, his counterattack goes down, his reinforcements could be camped momentarily, and more tanks to the north side go down as well. Oh, actually, there was even another tank over there. Okay, if HeRoMaRiNE had literally all 8 tanks in the natural, yeah, he probably doesn't get broken, but it is what it is. The perfect moment to strike. Clem breaks open the defenses of HeRoMaRiNE. And now I think we'll inevitably win. Before that, there was a real question mark. This could have gone to a 20-minute, 30-minute TvT, but now it's pretty inevitable. Clem should get this series to the 2-0. HeRoMaRiNE just desperately holding on, but really not able to make any moves in this game. It's been constantly him just defending, and then anything he did try, failed. His entire presence on Clem's side of the map did nothing for him ultimately. Didn't even distract the guy. More dropped on top of the tanks. Now the 3rd base is vulnerable. HeRoMaRiNE still with no 4th base. on location. It's been done on the main for a while. Falling behind in that regard, too. Clem even adding on Vikings, even though I don't think he actually added any extra starports. Nope. But he's got enough medevacs. He hasn't been losing any. He's added a couple of Vikings, tear down HeRoMaRinEs. And there will be the final attempt to bust out. HeRoMaRinE, much more tank-heavy than Marine-heavy. Can't really bust out any further than that. GG's. Clem with a 2-0 moves on to the finals as expected.